Exactly is this story about?
Well, Anita Sarkeesian, who's the woman I've profiled in this piece, is essentially an academic, and she sat down and she watched every single video game. She played them for hours and hours. She's got about 10 different consoles in her apartment. And she created a series of videos basically criticizing the way these games portray women. And she's isolated a number of, she calls them tropes, very academic, as I said. Tropes, but they're basically things that just appear over and over. The women are always very hypersexualized. They're often victims of very graphic, serious violence. They are very rarely actual characters you can play or engage with in the games. And you would never really know this if she hadn't sat down, watched them all, so we didn't have to, and sort of laid them all out together in these videos. And what happened is when she published these pieces to the internet, she put them out there for free, a lot of hardcore video game fans got really, really upset and started to sort of target her with threats and harassment.
How so? Hardcore being the important term here.
Well, it ranges from very sort of standard offensive kind of graphic insults, rape threats on Twitter and social media. People tried to post her home address and phone number.
Rape threats?
Oh, it gets much worse. I mean, people made videos of her with death threats.
Does she have any idea who these people are? Because the stereotypical image of the hardcore gamer is some unemployed kid in his late teens, right? Boy, I should add, right? And a man in his late teens or early 20s sitting around in his underwear.
In his mom's basement.
Yes,
definitely
exactly.
In the basement, always. Well, it's hard to know because a lot of what they're doing is under the cloak of anonymity online. And I mean, some of them have done some of these things with their names attached. I mean, they almost all seem to be men. The
video game audience is overwhelmingly male.
It is overwhelmingly male, although the Entertainment Software Association likes to sort of say that almost half of players, they say 45% of game players are actually women now, although that does not really sort of focus on console games, which are the biggest part of the industry. That includes Candy Crush on the subway, Angry Birds, your 2-year-old, but there are more women sort of interested in games, and there's really no place for them in this culture. I mean, everything about it.
So that's one way that the industry has responded. How more directly has the industry responded to her criticism?
Well, there's sort of two parts to it. There's the online harassment, and some of the gaming companies have sort of said, we condemn online harassment and sexist threats and all this. However, a lot of people feel that there's more they could do to really discourage it, and sort of, even in the platforms and the websites where gamers interact, some of these sites are managed by these game companies. They could probably do more to really eliminate it.
And have the game companies said anything? Because I do think we need to share the segment. We spoke to Strauss Zelnick just last week.
Sure. So Strauss is the chairman and CEO of Take-Two Interactive, which is the firm behind Grand Theft Auto.
Yes.
Now, not being a gamer at all, let alone a hardcore gamer, I can't tell you whether the depiction of women in Grand Theft Auto is any better or any worse than it is in some of the other games. My sense is that it is not as bad as it is in some places, but Grand Theft Auto has come under some criticism. Grand Theft Auto 5, the most recent edition, has come under some criticism for the way that prostitutes are portrayed and the fact that you can have sex with hookers and then kill them if you so choose. So this is the conversation we were having with Strauss, and this is the excerpt from that discussion.
This is a criminal setting. It's a gritty underworld. It is art, and I embrace that art, and it's beautiful art. But it is gritty, and let's not make no bones about the environment in which we operate. And we stand shoulder to shoulder with other major motion picture releases and major television shows that explore a similar universe.
That's a fair point, of course. I mean, it is a criminal underworld, and a lot of the people who are getting upset about the criticism some of the women are making are saying, well, hey, this is just one aspect of the game, and you don't have to choose to do this if you don't want to. But one point that Anita makes in her work is that often the only emergence of any female at all in this game environment is as a prostitute, a pole dancer, a mistress. They get their throats slit. It's over and over. And really, when you see them all, game after game after game, laid out in a row, it starts to seem like a really kind of disturbing.
And is the issue that this is going to only elicit rage and bad behavior from the gamers? Because one would guess that the people who create Game Theft Auto are doing it in what did I just say? Grand Theft Auto. I'm a huge gamer, obviously. Are doing it in response to what the gamers want.
Well, some of these games are huge sellers. Like Call of Duty is one that gets talked about a lot. That's a first-person sort of military shooter game, and I think it brings in over $1 billion in revenue every year. So the game companies understandably have a little fear about messing with their economic model. However, one of the points we try to make in our Bloomberg Business Week piece is that the industry is really at an inflection point, and they can either choose to really become mainstream the way movies and TV have, part of our common conversation, part of everyday life, or they can continue to really focus on this young adolescent male kind of guy in his man cave customer player that they've almost exclusively been fixated on, and they kind of, you know, they have to make some choices if they want
Except
to.
he's actually a 38-year-old troll in his basement. Gross.
31, 38, 18.
Listen, I don't disagree with Strauss. Art can be art, right? And it's always been violent since the dawn of time. But if it is incentivizing people to behave like this...
At the very, very least, good to get the debate out into the open.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story with us, Sheelah.
My pleasure.